Hey everyone, welcome to Question Period Rewind. I'm Donna Skelly, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. Let's go back to 1986. That's the year when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted its first batch of musicians. Among them, the iconic Ray Charles, Buddy Holly, and of course, Elvis Presley. Tina Turner was also receiving praise in California, where her star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame was revealed. And if you turned on the radio, there's a good chance you'd hear Madonna's #1 hit, Papa Don't Preach. But now, let's tune into the conversations the MPPs were having in Question Period.
Oral questions? Leader of the Opposition.
I have a question for the Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations with regard to the terrible situation faced by the home buyers, the potential home buyers in Bolton, who apparently have had the houses they agreed to purchase lost right out from under them and are now being asked by the very builders who sold them to them to buy the houses once again for as much as $40,000 more. Now, the Minister, I hope, will remember that this issue was first raised in this House, the issue respecting buyers in this situation, by my colleagues as long ago as March 12th, again on March 25th, and consistently through the course of this year. Notwithstanding the fact this was drawn to your attention 9 months ago, it is quite clear that you took no action whatsoever which would avert this situation falling upon the Bolton homeowners. My question to the Minister is this. Could you outline specifically what steps you took from and after March 12, 1986, when this issue was raised with you, that might have prevented this problem from occurring?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to respond to the Leader of the Opposition and tell him what has happened. As you know, there has been some requests that we should bring forward some legislation to prevent people who get caught in this situation. It was my feeling and the feeling of the people in my ministry that it is virtually impossible to bring down legislation that would really be effective. You'd be in a situation where you couldn't legislate supply, you couldn't legislate weather, you couldn't legislate some of the problems that happen as a result of other jurisdictions as far as subdivision approvals, building permits, things of that kind. Notwithstanding that, we went to the building industry, the Ontario Home Builders Association and the Toronto Home Builders Association, to ask them if they could address this situation. Members should know that the home building industry in Ontario is one of the biggest industries we have, and by and large, the vast majority of the members are ethical, honorable, competent businessmen. Notwithstanding that, we do have these problems. And what we are doing at the present time, and I hope to have an announcement in conjunction with the industry within a week's time, 10 days, on how they plan to cope with this particular situation.
Supplementary.
Well, Minister, in point of fact, you decided to do what you people like to do a whole lot, which is put together a committee to study a situation that we warned you about many months before. And you did that only on November 6th. You also undertook that you'd have a report by December 5th. That date is now passed. My question really, Minister, related to what you did from the time we raised this issue with you on March 12th until November 6th when you announced the study. Clearly, the correspondence between you and my colleague from Oakville who raised this issue with you indicates that you did nothing during that period of time and were not too concerned about it. In view of that, my question to you is this. Will you undertake this afternoon to say to those homeowners that the Government of Ontario will conduct an investigation into their specific problems and that the Government of Ontario will underwrite any and all legal costs which befall those homeowners as a result of your unwillingness to do anything about this problem before it arose?
Minister. Good point.
Mr. Speaker, I don't agree with the Leader of the Opposition that we did nothing. We have been meeting on an ongoing basis with the industry since that time, since March. Should also, well, you may not think anything effective is happening, but we are working on a solution. And I should tell you that at this very moment, at 2 o'clock, as a matter of fact, the officials in my ministry are meeting with the home builder to see if we can work out some resolution. In answer to the member's question, I will not give you the assurance that we will underwrite the legal costs because I don't know the situation. The information that I have is that the builder entered into a legally binding contract and did nothing illegal. However, if we do find that the builder has done something where we can bring to bear on him sanctions under the new home warranty program, we will do that.
Final supplementary?
Well, I say to the minister, if you have been meeting since March, of which there is no evidence, and your communications to my colleague indicates no evidence, if you've been meeting since March, surely it's an admission that your influence over the industry, your ability as a result of those meetings, is zero. Because from March till this situation occurred just last week, you succeeded in doing nothing, in getting no reaction from the industry, no action taken to stop this terrible situation from developing. Now, can you at least give the House this undertaking this afternoon, that if the allegations of the homeowners with regard to this particular firm prove to be correct, that is, that they didn't apply for the building permits which the municipality says were available, will you give a firm and clear undertaking to this House that that company will be declared by you, the Premier and the Minister of Housing, as ineligible for any and all government assistance under any and all government housing programs for the next long period of time?
Minister? Here.
Mr. Speaker, I should tell the honourable Leader of the Opposition that your party in 1983 brought in amendments to the Planning Act. Brought in amendments to the Planning Act that allowed permits to be issued to builders to start building without building permits. Well, what we are doing, you've had 42 years to deal with this thing. We are working on this problem, and what we are going to do, and if you take a look at any of the press reports, you'll know that we have been addressing this problem since last March. There will be a resolution that will correct the inadequacies of your particular program that has led to this. Everything seems to, in the opinion of the opposition, every problem has developed in the last few months. And I will say to you that what we are doing is we are reaping the harvest of your poor management.
Right on.
If you don't like the law, change it. If they did something wrong, disqualify them from government programs.
Order. Time for a new question. Leader of the Opposition.
Anything but action. I have a question for the Attorney General, and perhaps over the weekend he or the Solicitor General have tried to figure out whether they do or do not instruct police to lay charges. We are eager to find out what today's version is. My question to the Attorney General or Solicitor General is this. It is quite clear that a court decision is coming down next week, and quite clear as a result of that court decision that we might find real chaos out there, even greater than we saw last weekend and last week, because the courts may very well rule that the legislation is totally invalid. Now, given the fact that next Thursday may well be our last day here, and given the fact that a Sunday follows immediately thereafter, 3 or 4 days, could the Attorney General give us, some indication, give the public some indication of what he intends to recommend if the courts rule the legislation invalid?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I'd be delighted to give the honourable member some indication of what we intend to recommend. Would he be good enough to tell me the view of his party, and I'll take that into account in formulating our recommendation.
Supplementary?
Well,
Supplementary?
I want to remind the Attorney General that for the time being at least, he is the Attorney General, and he has the responsibility for giving some guidance to the public with regard to what he intends to do after December the 18th. Now, just to inform the Attorney General, he has had several months to read our recommendations. They stand. My question to you today, after several weeks of chaos and after 1 full year of the warning of this court case coming down, is this to the Attorney General. Will you give the public some guidance today with regard to what you will do in the event the legislation is thrown out by the courts?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's an eventuality which is possible. We will have to, but in my opinion, not likely. We will have to await the determination of the courts on December the 18th, and we will then promptly announce what is proposed.
Final supplementary.
I want to draw to the Attorney General's attention that we've had 1 full year to review this. That last year, December 29th, specifically, in a headline, AG gets into the act, you undertook to look into this thoroughly, and now, a year later, you are not prepared to give the public any indication of what you'll be saying in this House on the last day this House sits, the day the court decision comes down. Now, my question to the Premier, to the Attorney General is this. Will you get off the legalese and the smart aleck remarks and tell the public of this province what your response will be? Surely you have it by now, Attorney General. What will your response be if the law is thrown out by the court?
Minister.
Stand up and do your job.
Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, I not only got into the act, last week I asked people to phone me if they were fired. The trouble was that all I got was calls from members of the Conservative caucus.
That's just anticipation.
Order.
While they, I'm sure, don't feel they're going to be fired, they may feel that it won't be long before they lose their seats. But
Any response?
I should, not you guys. I should tell the House, Mr. Speaker, that we are considering the options that are available in the event that the Supreme Court of Canada gives one of a number of possible determinations on December the 18th, and we will respond when we see precisely what the Supreme Court says.
Order. Order. New question, the member for York South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Premier, and it concerns the announcement that was made on Thursday in this legislature by his colleague, the Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations, about the importation of the casino economy into Bay Street, holus bolus. I wonder if the Premier can confirm that when he was in New York in November, he in fact met with a number of movers and players and shakers in the financial industry in New York, and can he confirm to this House that those players urged his government to in fact entirely open up the border with respect to American investment in our securities field, and can he confirm that that in fact is precisely what his minister announced last Thursday?
Premier.
When I was in New York, I did meet with a number of people in the financial business. The vast majority of those were Canadian firms that were working in New York, although there were a couple of other firms as well. There was a general discussion of the re-regulation of the securities industry. I don't recall that specific suggestion coming forward at that meeting, although everyone was aware that we were in the process of re-regulating the industry that had been announced. There was no particular secret to that. There was discussions going on with the industry and the various people involved, and so it wasn't a particular thrust of that meeting.
Supplementary.
Eat or be eaten. Well, Mr. Speaker, the Premier the other day said in this House it was a question of eat or be eaten, and it's perfectly clear just who's been eaten in this process. I'd like to ask the Premier if he can explain why, given all the opposition that he has expressed to the whole tenor of the free trade talks, he's accused the Prime Minister of having negotiated away too much at the very beginning. I wonder if he can explain why the Minister on Thursday made a unilateral announcement saying that Toronto and Bay Street was going to be open season for American investors and for an American takeover without any sense of reciprocity, without any mention of the free trade discussions, without any mention of the negotiations that are going on with the United States. Can he explain why he would have given up a very important bargaining chip in the middle of the discussions, in the middle of negotiations, just at a time when the Premier himself says Ontario is opposed to what's happening?
Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I don't agree with my honourable friend's analysis, and I know he's cottoned on to a few trite phrases lately, like wheel of fortune and casino economy and things like that, and it may indicate his contempt for the system, I don't know. But I don't particularly share that view, and secondly, I would like the honourable member to know that this is a multinational, multilateral issue, not a bilateral issue. I would like you to know that, I'm sure you are aware, that the nature of the international financial markets has changed very, very substantially and gained great acceleration, particularly in the last year. Let me tell my honourable friend that when the minister some 6 months ago announced, I believe it was 6 months ago, June, announced that he was going to open up, re-regulate the market here and start in discussions with the various financial agencies and consumers and others as well. In a sense, it was a leap ahead of the market, but because it's been moving so very quickly, and because the changes that are taking place internationally and inside of our own country, in a sense, we were overtaken by those events. And then we had a very fundamental decision to make. Are we going to keep Toronto as a world-class center of financial transactions, or are we going to fall by the wayside? You may ideologically not approve of what's going on, I don't know, but I'm telling you, I'm not prepared to sit back and see Ontario or Toronto become a boutique economy catering to just a few small transactions to satisfy some ideological whim. I can tell you that the leadership that the government is providing on this issue will continue to keep Toronto and Ontario and Canada in the forefront of the international financial market.
Supplementary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, not talk about trite phrases. I think I heard one. I think I just heard one. You don't want Toronto to be overtaken, Mr. Speaker. We don't want Toronto to be taken over. And that, I think, is the real difference between us on this issue. But I'd like to simply say, ask the Premier to comment, Mr. Speaker, on all those studies, including the studies that have been done by his own task forces, most recently the Dupre Task Force on Financial Institutions, which said, and I quote, "Such a system provides a discipline which would be lacking." He's talking about a system which rigidly separates real from financial, which in other words makes a distinction as to who can own and what they can own, and which separates those people who can take money from the public from those people who are making investment decisions directly, and says if you don't maintain a distinction between those two groups of people, you have what Mr. Dupre describes as a possibility of a self-financing ring. It could lead to decisions being made which are not in the interest of the securities firm and its clients, but which are in the interest of outside investors. I wonder if the Premier can explain to us why all those concerns about self-dealing, about self-financing, about takeovers and an economy being taken over and distinctions failing to be made, why all those concerns were thrown out the window in one statement made by the Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations on Thursday.
I say with great respect to my honourable friend, those matters are not thrown out the window, and that's not right. That's just absolutely not right. What the new securities re-regulation is dealing is with ownership of the industry. That doesn't permit self-financing, self-dealing, non-arm's length transactions, and that kind of thing. What it is a recognition, as you know, because of the nature of the international securities business, where with a single phone call, $500 million worth of financing can go abroad. And what you would have us do, I think, is sit back and see our financial sector just wilt in the city of Toronto. And I can tell you, we're not prepared to sit back and see that happen. I say to my honourable friend, I don't suspect there's an expert he can talk to in this area that would agree with him in that regard. The world has gone far past Mr. Dupre's report, even in a number of the suggestions that he has had. It has been weighed very carefully in the deliberation. Very wide consultations have been had. We know what's going on in Montreal. We know what's going on in Vancouver. We know what the federal government's intentions are in broad terms. And I can tell my friend that the world and this country is marching forward, even if he isn't.
New question, the member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Health concerning the statements that were made last week by the officials of the Ontario Nursing Home Association. The officials of the Nursing Home Association have said as follows, quote, "We can no longer cope," quote, "We are no longer responsible," quote, "We cannot deliver a level of care more closely tied to the residents' assessed needs," and quote, "Now we will only continue to operate in a way that falls short of the residents' true needs and the family's expectations of our level of service." Mr. Speaker, the minister will be aware of his obligations under the Nursing Homes Act, and he'll also be aware of the obligations of owners who wish to retain a license. In particular, I note that the director can revoke or fail to, or refuse to renew a nursing home license where the, quote, "the nursing home is being operated in a manner that is prejudicial to the health, safety, or welfare of the residents cared for therein." We seem to have a statement, Mr. Speaker, from the industry that says they can't do their job. Just what does the minister intend to do about that?
Minister.
Here, I think that the first thing that I have requested is that my staff look into some of the charges that have been made during that press conference to see exactly which facilities are not performing their role, which ones of the administrators are indicating that they will not be able to carry out their role. I can say to the honourable gentleman that we are taking very seriously any suggestions made by individuals who operate nursing homes that they no longer intend to carry out the required care of their residents. And I would be very concerned about anybody who was basically indicating that they no longer were able to provide that service without first advising the Ministry of Health that they had, in fact, decided not to proceed with the obligations that they take on as a result of the licensing. If we find that there are some who are in that way, we will look after the needs, obviously, of the patients first.
Supplementary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister seems rather casual. We now have the report of Dr. Crittenden. We have the reports of the concerned friends, and now we have a statement held at a formal press conference by the Nursing Homes Association itself that says that they are not able to do their job. Mr. Speaker, we have a system which is in a state of crisis, in a state of collapse, and the minister said he's asking a staff member of his to look into it. I'm asking the minister, is he able to stand in his place today and say that every resident in the province of Ontario in a nursing home is receiving the care that he or she ought to receive, and if not, what are you going to do about it?
Minister.
Speaker, I don't think that the honourable gentleman has assessed appropriately my concern about the care that is needed for people in nursing homes. He knows full well that if there are people who are not receiving care in nursing homes in the province, that my inspection group are bound to take a look at those, and that in fact we'd like to follow up and ensure that that care is delivered. Mr. Speaker, there is an association with an agenda. That agenda appears to be to extract some $173 million from the Ministry of Health and the Government of Ontario for care. We have to assess exactly what that request is about. We have to make sure that we can, in fact, Mr. Speaker, get services delivered for any money which is used to enhance the nursing home sector. Their role, that is the association's role, apparently is to say the types of things that will lever extra money from the government. That's perhaps their role, but I can tell the honourable gentleman that my concern is not so much with the association, but with the welfare of the residents inside those homes, and we will take seriously any suggestion that is made or will be made that people are not being well cared for in those institutions.
Order. Final supplement.
I didn't hear an answer to my question. The minister is responsible for the care and the health of 30,000 old people who are in nursing homes. The managers of those nursing homes have said they can't cope, they're no longer responsible, they can't provide the care that those residents and their parents and their loved ones, their children, have a right to ask for. I'd like to ask the minister, is he in a position today, as the minister responsible, to stand in his place and say that the care of those residents is a care that he is satisfied with, that he can guarantee? Because if he can't guarantee it, he ought to make way for somebody and for a government that can guarantee it.
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable gentleman because I can tell the honourable gentleman that we are looking at ways of enhancing care in the nursing home sector. You know that we've announced a program that will
require activation programs through contractual obligations between the owners and the Ministry of Health. You know that we have provided more money for incontinent care. You know that we are enhancing the position of people who are residents in nursing homes. And I think, Mr. Speaker, that you will find that this government will be seen to be very progressive indeed. We have amendments which are pending, and we look forward to the support of all of the people here in this House to help us enhance the lifestyle of people in nursing homes. And I look forward to the day when we get some constructive suggestions from the leader of the third party.
New question. New question. The leader of the opposition.
I have a question for the Attorney General. I wonder if the Attorney General would agree with me that the Sunday closing legislation is becoming very close to unenforceable.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I think there is no question but that the determination by the Ontario Court of Appeal made 2 years ago and the pending redetermination to be made by the Supreme Court of Canada, and which will be released December the 18th, has led a number of merchandisers to gamble against the prospect that the law will be declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of Canada. And that, of course, has led a number of stores, not only in this province, but as the Honourable Leader will see, all across the country, to stay open against the prospect that any charges laid, which the courts will not now deal with, will have to be withdrawn if the Supreme Court of Canada determines that the law cannot stand. I myself do not, though I've been wrong before, predict that result on December the 18th.
Supplementary.
I want to take a moment to outline to the attorney the situation we have. His leader has said on January 7th this year, quote, that the law is becoming very close to unenforceable. His leader did not attribute the violations to the pending court action. He said, and I quote, any law that is violated so often, it may be an issue that society in general has moved on, and we have to reflect these changing attitudes. May I also tell the Attorney General that we now have this situation causing some uncertainty. You have said on December 2nd, quote, the power of the AG does not include instructing the police that they should or should not lay charges. On December 26th, the Staff Sergeant James Knowlton at Metro Police 52 Division said police received orders to lay charges from Attorney General Ian Scott this week.
Attorney General?
Given this situation, my question to the Attorney General is this. Is he going to bring in legislation this week which will ensure employees that, notwithstanding what the courts decide, they will not any longer be in a position of being fined or being fired?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the point to be observed, and the leader makes it, I think, correctly, is that there is some ambivalence in the public mind about whether shopping on Sunday is good or not. Whether it should be permitted or not. The leader thinks it should. Mr. O'Connor, the honourable member from Oakville, his colleague, thinks it shouldn't. And that's typical of the division that is found in many communities across the province, and is not a matter about which anybody should be surprised. Following the conclusion of the matter in the Supreme Court of Canada, we will announce to the House what we propose.
Order. The member for Essex North would like to... Order. I'll just wait while you're passing comments back and forth across the floor, but the member for Essex North would like to ask a question. The member for Essex North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Energy. The Minister will know that in 1952 and in 1973, the Ogoki and Long Lac diversions were closed or reduced to alleviate problems created by high lake levels. Now that the 3 of the 5 Great Lakes are higher than they have been in recorded history, will he agree to reduce or close these diversions and also increase the flows through the Welland Canal?
Mr. Speaker, the Ogoki diversion one that is generating a considerable amount of electrical power, has been closed from time to time. The fact of the matter is that the International Joint Commission is now examining those things that have an impact on the water levels of the Great Lakes. One of them is the Ogoki diversion. I'm certain that in reviewing those particular initiatives to close Ogoki would be one that would be given as an undertaking by the International Joint Commission. At this point in time, what they're saying is that they're reviewing all these options, that in fact they're looking for a lead agency from each of the federal governments, the United States and Canada, to play a major role in the controlling of the water levels. I think that will unfold as it should, and that the major responsibility, as I've said many, many times, rests with the two nations that share one of the largest freshwater bodies in the world. It's beyond the scope, I think, of any good-thinking person that a provincial government or municipalities could encounter the kind of undertaking to handle the levels of the Great Lakes system. That's why it's resting with an International Joint Commission.
Supplementary.
Because the Minister of Energy is also the Minister of Natural Resources, there is a conflict of interest between Ontario Hydro's interest in running the Ogoki and Long Lac diversions and the protection of people and property along the lake shores. I know that the minister is probably going to fluff this off and blame the federal government again.
The supplementary is?
What level do the lakes have to reach before the Minister of Natural Resources can convince the Minister of Energy to do something about lowering the Great Lakes?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the member is presuming that I'm blaming the federal government for high water. I've never said that. I've suggested that they are the people that have to make the decision as to how we control the levels of high water. One is considerably different than the other. I don't think the member wants to deal with this issue except to get people excited in areas that do not properly belong in the provincial jurisdiction. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Speaker, the federal government is going to spend $175 million to renew the Welland Canal. And they are undertaking to talk about some control on water levels there. And of course, the Minister of Energy is very anxious to see if we spill water through the Welland Canal that we generate good, clean hydraulic electricity. That's a must.
New question. The member for Kent Elgin.
Question, Mr. Speaker, for the Minister of Environment. Last week in the Committee of International Scientists confirmed the fears of people in southern Ontario. That is, that acid rain is a threat to human health and buildings, in addition to the death of lakes and the decline of forests in northern Ontario. Today there's a great deal of confusion surrounding U.S. Commitment to spend $5 billion on acid rain abatement. U.S. Energy Secretary Harrington told the Washington Post that they can't afford the $5 billion. Harrington also suggested that Canada has accepted a scaled-down program. Mr. McMillan, Canada's Minister of the Environment, says that the U.S. is not reneging on this commitment. Can the Minister tell us what he has done to clarify this confusion of statements?
Minister.
The reference you make to a newspaper article, I presume, today, I read this morning, same one you did, is to the U.S. Energy Secretary and his statement. There was an understanding, I think, when President Reagan and Prime Minister Mulroney met in March of this year, that there would be some significant progress, at least in terms of the communique issued in the field of acid rain. And the major component of the U.S. program, as I recall, was $5 billion. I don't know how much of that's new money. I don't think it's all new money. I wish it were. But $5 billion was to go to research for clean coal technology. I'm concerned when I had heard, as the news media reports, as the member has, that even that $5 billion, which is simply to look at research into clean coal, might have been in some jeopardy. I think the Secretary has tried to clarify that, but it is of some great concern to us because I think, as all members of the House would understand, over 50% of sulfur dioxide produced, and therefore acid rain precipitation that results from it, in fact, originates in the United States and falls on eastern Canada. So it is a matter of great concern, and I hope that they haven't changed their mind on even that small initial step.
New question. The member for St. George.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question of the Attorney General. The police investigation of the aptly named booze cruise indicated that the actions of the former Solicitor General have, and I quote from the report, affected the credibility of the Marine Awareness Program and the Holiday Weekend Blitz Program for highway enforcement. My question to the attorney is, do you agree with Inspector Nisha's opinion, and has the irresponsible behavior of one of your cabinet colleagues effectively undermined the credibility of the government in promoting campaigns against the use and abuse of alcohol?
I think the honourable member misreads the police report. The issue that was being considered in the report, of course, was whether in a case where a layman who had committed this offence or done these acts would not have been charged, should a person who was the Solicitor General alone be charged. And the issue that was that the police referred to in that part of the press release is that if he was not charged, that would affect the credibility of the program. He was charged, and the credibility of the program is, in my opinion, intact.
Supplementary, the member for St. George.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was not quoting from a press release, Attorney. I was quoting from the report and quoted it accurately. I note, notwithstanding your response, that there was no customary kickoff to this weekend's ride program. And I say again, did you cancel your media conference because you were really too embarrassed by the trivialization of this issue by the Premier, and once again to come before the public, have lost your credibility in dealing with the seriousness of drinking and driving as in the ride program?
Starting to backfire around the province.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if I may say through you to the Premier, I'm looking forward to the great encounter that's going to take place in St. George, St. David, not before long. And let me say to the honourable member that when I referred to press release, that was wrong. I meant to refer to the police report, a copy of which she had. She will be interested to hear that the publicity associated with the RIDE program, the press conference that was fixed for Friday was postponed and will be held today at 4 o'clock in the press office. I think it would be fun for a change if a member of the Conservative caucus came along to look at these efforts to control drinking and driving in the province, of which we're very proud.
New question, the member for Lakeshore.
I have a question for the Minister of the Environment, Mr. Speaker. Last June, when Toronto's beaches were being closed, I raised with the Minister the fact that lake filling projects on the Toronto waterfront had contributed not only to beach contamination, but to the presence of chemicals in our drinking water. The Minister replied that he was considering changes in policy in order to have a better assessment of the impact of lake fill. Last Friday, the Minister will know, the Waterfront Advisory Board of the Metro Toronto and Region Conservation Authority approved a plan that's going to require another 170,000 loads of fill to be dumped in order to create a marina off the Leslie Street spit. Can the Minister tell the House what he intends to do about this?
Minister.
Well, I think the member identifies a problem which is going to be important not just to Toronto, and I know her own concerns are not simply to Toronto, but there is a lot of lake filling taking place here, but extends beyond metropolitan Toronto. And I happen to believe that what was considered to be an acceptable manner of dealing with the landfill in the past isn't necessarily best now, for a couple of reasons. I think the member in her initial question some time ago talked about those reasons, and one of them, of course, is the fact that the natural flushing that can take place in a harbor area, which would naturally flush away some of the contaminants, that does not take place as well as it should. The other is the possibility that contaminants might be able to come into Lakeville from the various sites, and that is a second issue. And so I am presently, along with my ministry, reassessing the whole program of landfill as it relates to lake areas for the reasons that I have identified. And I think the member would support that particular reassessment to ensure that if any future activity does take place, it is only without environmental adverse effects.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what he said last June, that he shared my concern and that he knew I was aware of the problem and that he was going to reassess the program. My question, Mr. Speaker, was, in view of the decision now taken by the MTRCA, in view of the fact that since last June he hasn't reassessed his program or made any announcement about it, what does he intend to do about the MTRCA's latest proposal?
Mr. Minister?
Well, the fact that I don't announce everything doesn't mean that we aren't undertaking these kind of activities. As you know, as the member would know, our ministry isn't the kind of ministry that does a lot of bragging. We simply state what we are doing to address problems in the province.
They're very modest.
And we are actually quite modest in that regard. We talk about the bad news, we talk about the good news, and both. But I know the member wants me rather to deal with her question than talk about the general policy of the Ministry of the Environment. And so I will address that question. I can say that with this specific proposal, I can tell the member that it will receive the very closest of scrutiny, particularly in view of the fact that we have seen evidence of some adverse impacts in terms of the bacteria which can accumulate along the beach, or the recent federal report, for instance, on the Leslie Street spit. So she can be assured that we will be bringing together all of the key players in this particular issue to discuss this matter, to determine how it can best be handled, and that there simply won't be a carte blanche for the filling that will take place in that area.
New question. New question. The member for Brantford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Minister, you will know my colleague, the member for Brock, has asked you about the rather controversial land sale in the town of Vaughan. A sale of 14 acres of prestige industrial land to be serviced by the municipality. A sale made against the advice of staff for $2.75 million on the strength of a deposit of $20,000 as opposed to the usual 10%. We understand that the closed-door investigation you were having into this matter was due to report some several months ago and has yet to do so. I wonder if the Minister could advise us when the House will be advised of the outcome of this investigation.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, as I told the honourable member from Brock last week that the investigation was ongoing and a thorough study of the situation has to be made, and until the final report is in, I cannot divulge what the ministry or what other steps will be made.
Supplementary.
We can certainly understand the Minister wanting to have a full inquiry into this matter, but it has been 6 months, Minister. By way of supplementary, as the proximity of persons close to the Liberal Party have again reared their ugly head with regard to this deal and has been speculated about in the media, does it not concern the Minister that if this matter is allowed to go on too long, that the appearance of a cover-up will set in? Why will you not exercise your responsibility under the Municipal Act to immediately call an inquiry into this matter?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, staff has looked into the possibility of calling an inquiry, and staff has advised the municipality of Vaughan that no inquiry is necessary under Section 180 of the Municipal Act, but due to the fact that some serious allegations were made, serious charges were made, that it necessitated a longer period to determine if charges will be laid or not.
New question. The member for Windsor Riverside.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question to the Minister of Industry and Trade. I wonder if the Minister could report to the House
as to what his ministry's assessment is of the impact of the layoffs of 29,000 people in the United States at General Motors and the closure of 11 plants.
Minister?
What the impact in Ontario will be.
Mr. Speaker, we have discussed this matter with the General Motors people, and they tell us that there will be very little effect on Canadian plants and Ontario plants.
Supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, that's the kind of answer I thought I was going to get from the minister. Is the minister aware that last Friday General Motors announced the layoff of nearly 500 people in the city of Windsor at its GM trim plant, which is a direct result of the layoffs in the United States? And is the minister still willing to buy the line of General Motors that the impact is going to be minimal? When is this government going to start publicly pushing the federal government not just to save the safeguards in the current auto pact, but to in fact bring in content legislation, which was the major recommendation of the Auto Task Force chaired by Bob White and your deputy minister?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, again, we are being told that those particular layoffs are not because of the layoffs in the states, that some of them have to do with some of the closures that were temporary closeouts in the states.
New question. The member for Prescott Russell.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Cultural Affairs. I want to ask the Minister, we hear that TV Ontario is going to have a French channel station. Many people in my riding are very interested in the introduction of this French channel. Could the Minister tell me if she has a date in mind as to when the French channel will be on air in Ontario?
Mr. Speaker, my colleague is quite correct. The awarding of the CRTC license to TV Ontario was indeed a landmark decision, and I understand the Commission also was very favourable in its comments on many of the programs coming forth from TV Ontario. In essence, that now allows us to deliver French language programs right across Ontario. I just finished taping a message to the Franco-Ontarian population and expect that those programs will be available in the new year.
Supplementary?
Oui, Monsieur le Président. J'étais en contact récemment avec...
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was in contact with several artists, Franco-Ontarian artists, and I'd like to know what percentage, if it has been established, of the production programs on TV Ontario will be specifically designed for Francophone programs, and I'd like the Minister to tell me, please.
The board and staff at TV Ontario have been working for some time to ensure that the programming level available to the Ontario population does reflect the needs and the artistic quality of people in this province. TV Ontario is being cognizant of that kind of input, and I would expect that over the course of the next 2 years that you will see a significant increase in the number of programs that are designed, developed, and in which Franco-Ontarians star. Initially, we of course will be starting to air programs relating to our children's programs currently in existence, and I'll be able to give you an up-to-date status report as the year progresses. Thank you for the question.
New question, the member for Durham York.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Environment. There continues to be unacceptable emissions from the Thane aluminum smelter near Keswick. What do you intend to do about it?
Minister?
Well, as the member would be aware, there's a long history to the Thane developments, which dates back well into the previous administration. And there has been an attempt no, that's not the case. Of course, the difference is that we are going to do something about it, as you did nothing. You did nothing. So now, contrasting it just like your Sunday shopping.
Response.
On January 9th, 1986, you said you were going to have Sunday shopping.
Response.
Now,
Maybe that's why people are...
Order.
No, but you... do you deny on January 9th that you said you're in favor of Sunday shopping?
Order.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
No. Interjections are out of order and responses to interjections. Now, are you going to answer the question? Okay.
Fairness to the member, I will try to answer his question. The member will know that there have been attempts through discussions with the company to bring them into line with what we consider to be acceptable standards environmentally. The two issues being the actual air emissions and the accumulation of the waste that's in the area. We have worked on a control order. We have had the Investigations and Enforcement Branch in, and at the present time the Investigations and Enforcement Branch is indeed investigating to determine whether, in fact, most recently there has been compliance with the control order.
Supplementary?
The minister should know that there has not been compliance. The Georgina Council have lost confidence in you in dealing with this issue and have hired a legal counsel to deal in this matter. Why have you been so unwilling to cooperate with the council in trying to bring an end to this problem?
Minister?
I don't think that, I guess one can say that when there's a disagreement between the two that they say that there's lack of cooperation. But I would not define it as that, because as you know, we have a specific role to play in there, and that is the enforcement of the control order. That is why we bring in the Investigations and Enforcement Branch, in order to undertake detailed investigation to determine whether there is indeed compliance. When there is not compliance with the control order, we're quite prepared to press the necessary charges, and if the evidence that has been accumulated is such that there is a case to be made in court, you can be assured that we will be prosecuted.
New question. I guess that completes question period. Oh, new question, the member for Welland Thorold.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask a question to the Minister of Financial Affairs. I hope that he would know that the Ontario Road Safety Annual Report for 1985 indicated that in spite of compulsory insurance in this province, that there were between 60,000 and 260,000 vehicles on the road without insurance. I wonder if you could give this House a more accurate indication of the actual numbers which aren't insured.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I don't have the actual number, but I'll be happy to get it for the member and get it for him.
Supplementary?
Well, he didn't know that there weren't any tavern owners running without operating without insurance. I suppose he can't be expected to know this. Don't you know or care about the jeopardy which this places other motorists who are on the road, in which it places other motorists who are on the road, in fact, the jeopardy in which it places those who are operating without insurance? And don't you realize that a public plan like those in the western provinces, which ties insurance to license plates, prevents driving without insurance? Don't you think it'd be a good idea to have that kind of a plan here?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, some weeks ago I characterized the leader of the third party as riding a hobby horse. Today I'd like to characterize the member from Welland Thorold as a one-trick pony. The only time he ever has a question, it has to do with bringing in government car insurance. We are looking at the whole issue of insurance. As you know, we've got experts looking at the whole problem, and when they report to me, I'll be happy to pass along their recommendations to him.
Order. The member for Carleton Grenville would like to ask a question.
I have a question of the Minister of Energy. On October 23rd, Mr. Minister, I asked you whether or not you would reconvene a new hearing on the hydro route for the Eastern Line going from Lennox to Ottawa through the community of Bridlewood, whether you would reconvene a new hearing to reconsider the route through that community. Can you report to me on that?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that we in Ontario have had some real difficulty in transmitting our power that's generated from one part of the province to the other. In order to get that grid in place, we have gone through a very, very timely process. Everyone that had any reason to appear before that committee was given the opportunity to do so. When the decision comes down, we're generally forced to live with it unless there's very good reason why we shouldn't. We've done that in every instance. In fact, in one instance, we've had some 8 or 9 years of undertaking to get a power line to take the power out of the Bruce. It's cost us $200 million in alternative fuel. And the process is a good one. Everyone is heard, and I have to tell you that that's generally the way we're going to go.
Supplementary?
Well, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, obviously the minister hasn't read the some 1,600 letters from people in that community who have tried to explain to you that the process was not fair to them. That in fact the alternate route which was taken by the Joint Board was a route that was introduced in February of 1986 after the hearings had taken place in the community of Bridlewood. Therefore, that community has not had, in effect, an opportunity to meet this proposal. They were told by Ontario Hydro that the route through their community was not a primary route and was secondary. Will you not give them a second chance to consider this particular route by reconvening a new hearing?
Minister?
Ontario Hydro officials met with the community last week, and they said that they could reconvene a hearing. Will you call Hydro and ask them to reconvene a hearing?
Mr. Speaker, there are transmission lines all over Ontario, and if we were to reconvene all of the directions that we go with transmission lines, and you know that this one already has a transmission line there, and we're going to double up on that property. Now, you were talking about an issue that would bring into question every transmission line in Ontario if the reason for having the hearing has to do with the issue that you bring forward. That just wouldn't be practical. In fact, we need to speed up the system. We don't need to slow it down.
New question, the member for Sudbury East.
I have a question for the minister responsible for the swamp. On November 21st of 85,
Where is that?
the Minister of Labor, pardon me, Mr. Speaker. On November 21st, 85, the minister in this legislature said that there would be no more repeat orders. There would be prosecution. The auditor's report under the section entitled Need for Improved Enforcement states, the auditor said they were informed that the repeat orders are issued only if the observed contravention is identical in all respects to the one observed on a preceding visit. Given this, can the minister tell me why 9 repeat orders were issued to GIFL associations in Rexdale between December 10th, 85 to February of 86, despite the ministry advising the auditor, and I quote, if the order is not complied with by the next visit, the inspector initiates a prosecution.
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it probably won't come as a surprise to my honourable friend that I can't give him an answer to that question today, since it's a very specific question on a very specific series of orders that was written. I will take a look at the allegation that my honourable friend raises and get back to him. But I want to remind my honourable friend that in the early days following the issuing of the orders policy, there were some clarifications needed in terms of making inspectors aware of the procedures to be followed. But I think, Mr. Speaker, as there is some of getting out of the kinks in the early going of any program, that has ended, and by and large the new orders policy is working, Mr. Speaker, very effectively. And I just say to the honourable gentleman, the effectiveness of the new orders policy can be seen in the numbers of very sharply increased numbers of prosecution requests which are going to the legal branch for determination.
Supplementary?
Well, I think the minister's being economical with the truth, quite frankly. Since I asked this question before, economical with the truth. Now, you might want to twist that one around, Mr. Speaker.
Repeat that you've asked.
But I asked this question before, and I've written you about this question before. So it doesn't come as something new. But my supplementary, Mr. Speaker. We know that the category for repeat orders no longer appears in the annual report of the Ministry of Labor. That's one way of getting rid of it. Another way is you can use misleading words such as advice, suggestions, and of course extensions of orders. In the case of, can the Minister tell me in the following two cases then? In the case of Canada Haircloth Company Limited, a compliance date was extended by the supervisor over the order issued by the inspector for providing data sheets, and in Matabi Mine Limited had an order issued on February 15th, 86, and reissued by the mining inspector on February the 12th, 86, for the 2600 Almac climber. Can the Minister tell me if charges have been laid in there for repeat orders, even though you've tried to disguise them?
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, I apologize to my honourable friend. I knew he was very anxious to ask a question because he wanted to ask a question on Thursday, and I tried to anticipate him. But, Mr. Speaker, I can't always anticipate which of the 20 letters a week that my friend sends me are going to be the subject of follow-up questions. I do want to say, Mr. Speaker, I do want to say, Mr. Speaker, on the one issue that my honourable friend has raised, that he seems to believe that because a supervisor reviews an order written by an inspector, because a supervisor supervises and acts as a supervisor might in any other situation, that somehow that changes the matter. Mr. Speaker, I contend, and my honourable friend may want to disagree, but that the era of repeat orders has ended. The fact of the matter is, the orders policy is very clear, very precise, and by and large, with some exceptions, it is being followed very well.
Time for oral questions has expired.